In this video, we are going to solve 5 basic Python problems. The first problem that we are going to solve is finding the area of a circle. You need to take input from the user, and the input would be the radius. Then you need to calculate the area and return the area. So let's start it. So we are going to take input from the user and we are going to provide the label enter radius. Then we are going to take another variable that is going to calculate the area of circle. That is going to be pi r square. So that is 3.14 times a times a. And then we are going to print b. So if I execute that, now we need to enter the radius. So let's say it's 12. So if I press enter, you get the area of the circle as 452.159. Now, the second task is finding the number of unique elements in a list. So let's suppose you had a list with the values like this, that has a lot more duplicate values. So you need to find the unique number of elements that are inside the list L. Well, the one way of doing this would be that you iterate over a for loop, and then we can use an operator called in operator, which is used to find that whether an element already exists in the list or not, and then you can count those number of elements in it. So how we can do that? Let's see. So for I in range, now let's suppose I don't know the exact length, so I want to iterate it over the complete list L. So I can use here length of L. Right here semicolon and press enter. So indentation came in. Then I can use, now I need to create another empty list that is going to store our unique elements. So let's create another empty list J. Now I am going to write a condition statement. If L of I, that is for the very first time it is going to be L of 0, that is 1, in J, then it is going to do nothing. Else we are going to append that element into the J. Now if I press enter, we need to use here not in. If it's not in J, then it's going to append. Now you certainly need not to write the else block if you don't require it. So if I execute it, it has been executed. So let's just print out J. So as you can see, we have these unique numbers. Now let's just see how our program works. So in the very first iteration, we have I as 0. For the very first moment, J is empty. So it checks for condition that is 1 present in J. No, it's not in J. So it's going to execute this query that it is going to append in it. So 1 has been added to J. Now we have J and 1 is added to it. So for the next time 2 came in. 2 is also not present in the J, so 2 also appended. Then comes the 3. Now for the fourth iteration again 2 comes in. When it goes for if L of I not in J, that means it asks that is 2 already present in J. It returns false because it's there in J. So that's why it's not going to execute. Then it again goes for 3, same for 4. And when it comes for 5, it asks if 5 is 5 not in J. So that's true, 5 is not in J. So then it is going to append 5 in it. Then it asks for 6 and then 7. Then it again goes for 5 and asks is 5 not in J. But this time 5 has already been added to J. So it's going to do nothing. And that's how you can get all unique values. Well, this is just one simple approach. But if you pay attention to the data structures, then I specifically mentioned that we use the set data structure when we want to remove the data redundancy. Now, the simplest way to do this task is to create a set. So, I am going to create a set J which equals set, and I am passing my list to it. So, if I press enter and if I print J, you can see we don't have to do even a single computation on it. Just by choosing a right data structure, we can completely resolve our problem. Let's begin with our task 3. Now our task is to provide a number n and find squares up to n. Since we had to store multiple number of values, that means we're definitely going to need a list. So let's create an empty list L. And then if I look at the requirements, then I had to find the square of all the numbers from 0 to n. That means if I provide n equals 10, then that means I have to find the squares of 1 to 9 and append it to my list. So how we can do that? Now for that, we can use a for loop to iterate over the 1 to n. And then we can simply add a statement that is going to find the square of the number and adding it to the empty list. So how we can do that? Now we need to write for loop for I in range. So now in range we need to provide our n. So n, and we are going to take n as input, not just an input but an int input from the user provided with label n. So we take the input from the user and then we created a for loop for that n. Now we are left with the task that we need to find the square of the number and put it in our list L. So we need to write L dot append I into I. If I press shift and enter, I write here n. So I want to go up to 10. So when I press enter, and now I'm going to print L. So you can see that it provides me with the square of the numbers. Let's begin with the task 4. The task 4 is given a list L that has few strings in it with both uppercase and lower cases. So what we need to do is to separate out the lowercase from the uppercase and put them inside new unique lists. So let's see how we can do that. Now we need to create two separate lists for storing the uppercase and the lowercase. So let's just first create two lists, X and Y. We are going to process the entire list L, so we need to use a for loop. So creating a for loop for I in range, and I want to go up to the length of L. So now here I have to write the conditional statement that is going to check whether my written string is in lowercase or in uppercase. Thanks to the Python, we already had predefined method called isUpper or isLower to find the character whether they are in lowercase or they are in uppercase. The isLower function is going to return true if the character is in lowercase, and the is upper is going to return true if the character is in uppercase. So let's just use it. Now we are going to write if our L of I dot is lower is double equal to true. If this statement is true, then we are going to append our alphabet to the list X. So X dot append L of I, or else we can append our rest of the characters into Y. So if I just run it, it has been compiled. So let's just print out the values, print X comma Y. Now you can see these has been separated out, but there might be chances that instead of getting the alphabets, you get a numbers with the strings. Now if I run the same line of code for these things, then you can see these are also inside my Y list, but they should not be here because they are numbers. So for such cases, we need to write another condition statement. Now instead of else, I can write here elif L of I dot is upper double equals true. Now if that statement is going to be true, then it's going to append. Else, what we can do, we can print out that we had invalid operation. So now if I just print it out, you can see that we got two invalid operation lines. That means we had two invalid operations. And now if I just print out X and Y, you can see these two has been separated out. Let's begin with our task 5. Now in the task 5, you were given a string which has some alphabets and numerical mixed up inside. So I want to find the sum of the numerical values that are inside that list. Let's just see an example. So let's say I have a string A which is equal to ABC 1 2 3 4 5, something like this. So I want to find the sum of the numerical value that are inside this string. So how we can do that? Now the basic approach would be, first we need to separate out the string by a single character. We need to do it in the way so that we can create a list like this L, where each of the character is separated. So for creating that, we need to traverse the complete alphabet A. So to traverse that, to process each and every element in the string A, we need to use the for loop. So for I in range, and we are going to use the length function. And before using that, we need to create an empty list that is going to store our each alphabet that is in the string. So we are going to append. So L dot append A of I. So if I just did that, and if I print now L, no, yeah, L, so you can see now we have separated our string into single alphabets. So now we need to find now we had our desired list. Now the next challenge is to find the alphabets and the characters. So thanks to the Python, we had inbuilt functions that can let you know whether a string is an alphabet or it's a numerical value. So we had two functions called isAlpha and isNumeric. IsAlpha returns true if the string is an alphabet. The function isNumeric returns true if the desired character is a number. So we are going to go for a for loop for I in range. Now we just created a for loop because we are going to traverse our new created list L. And now we need to separate out our alphabets from the numerical value. So when we get the numerical value, we need to store them into some unique list. So let's just create another list G. Now we need to use the functions. for using that function, we need to create a conditional statement. So if our L of I dot is numeric double equals true, then we are going to append our numeric value into the j. So j dot append our L of I. So if I just run that, and now if I just print out the j, oh, sorry for the mistake, it's a method, so you need to use the square brackets. If I compile it again, and now you can see we had the numbers inside of it. So now we had our numerical values. Well, you can see that these are the numerical values, but you can see that these have these braces around themselves. So that means they are string in nature. Let me show you. So if I write type j of 0, you can see it's a string. So we need to convert that string into the numerical value. Now, how to convert it? Well, if you have paid attention, then while taking the input, we are taking the input as a string and then we are converting it into the integer and float using the int and float methods. So we are going to use the same methods. So for that, now we are going to create another empty string k, and now we are going to create a for loop for I in range length of j. So now we are going to fetch the element from the j, we are going to convert it into the integer, and then we are going to store it into the k. So in order to enter the value into the k, we are going to use the append function. But first we need to fetch the value, the j. So j of I, we are going to fetch the j of I, and then we are going to apply a function integer on that. Now, and then we are going to append it into the k. So means k dot append, and this is going to be appended to our list. So if I just did that, and if I just print k, you can see now these are now in numbers. So to find the sum, thanks to the Python, we again had a predefined function called sum. So all you need to do is sum, and then you pass the list. If you hit enter, you get the sum. Pretty easy, right?